Welcome to the Vet Med Wellness and Leadership Podcast, where we discuss central challenges vet med leaders face, such as burnout, stress, and difficult interactions with clients and staff, just to name a few. In each episode, you will hear about actionable solutions that you can apply to your practice and invitations to connect with fellow leaders who are passionate about improving the wellness of the vet med profession. By subscribing, liking, commenting, or sharing this podcast, you are helping more veterinary professionals find the resources shared in these episodes. Thank you in advance for listening and supporting this show. I hope you enjoy it.
All right. Hello, everybody. Crystal Stokes here. I'm going to start today with a question. Have you ever gone through a difficult life experience that led you to change your life in a major way? Most of us hate to admit it, but painful experiences tend to be our greatest teachers. The good news is that by identifying what does not work, we can then start to create solutions towards what does work. So joining me today are Dr. Brandon Prince and Dr. Seth Bleakley from Care Surgery Center in Glendale, Arizona. And we're going to learn about their unique business model, their mission behind it, and the painful past experiences that inspired them to create it. Dr. Brandon Prince was a third-generation veterinarian, and founding partner. And Dr. Bleakley, originally from Northern Ireland, received his 4-year small animal surgical residency at Colorado State University with a special focus on minimally invasive surgery. So thank you, two, for being here with me today.
Thank you, Crystal.
I wanted to kick this off with going way back in time, the origin story of how you two met.
I was just looking to be rescued, and Seth came in and did that for me. As a veterinary student, I entered clinical year at Colorado State. Didn't know my way around the hospital, didn't know what I was doing, and I was suffering from an acute lack of sleep because my wife just had our first child. And Dr. Bleakley was kind enough, he was in his residency, he was kind enough to kind of show me the ropes and lead me around the hospital and help me pass muster. So it started with, a lot of help from him. And then his wife actually stepped in and really helped my wife too go through that. Because I think, Seth, how many, you had 2 kids at that point, 3?
Yeah, 3 kids by residency.
Yeah. And so we also, when we had to avoid home, we were able to kind of commiserate on all the growing pains of starting a family at the same time too. So that's how we got together.
Got it. And what parts of your life were most neglected during that stage? Like you're in school, you got kids, you're working hard. What was it like back then?
Well, I had it easy compared to Seth. I don't know. Seth might want to tackle that one. He had the tough job as a resident.
Tell us give us a snapshot of what a typical week was for you.
Oh, well, life of a surgery resident, there's lots of on-call, lots of nights, lots of surgeries during the day and records at night and demanding clinics and trying to get research done at the same time. So, yeah, just any medical program is grueling, and I suppose the subject of your podcast, how getting through things that are difficult and coming out on top makes you a better person. So you grow from that. So
see, I actively avoided adversity in vet school, so Seth took it all for me, which was great.
You guys are like yin yang. You're very complimentary.
But I will say that something that helps you a lot through demanding programs is having a friend. And Brandon and I became fast friends. Our families are in similar situations, and we like the same movies. And getting out to the dollar theater as a resident would help us de-stress and try and get through everything.
We had a similar budget too, which was great.
Budget. I suppose one of the main stresses for me was constantly feeling like I was about to drop out, get kicked out of the residency, because I did a master's at the same time and failed some classes my first year, and basically was on academic probation. So it was constantly, well, am I going to make it through this? Am I going to survive? But
he still found time to like kind of help. He was all the students' favorite doctor, right? He still found time to help everybody around. He's gonna shake his head at this and all that. But all the students wanted to work with him because he was the only resident that like took the time for everybody else. And so that's probably I pretty early on I decided I needed to hitch my wagon to this gift horse.
Thanks.
Blushing. That's really wonderful, isn't it? Because it speaks to a person's character. When we're really under pressure, that's when the truth tends to come out. If you still value relationships and people, if you still make the time despite all the other constraints, that really does speak volumes. I'd love to know what happened next. Like after school, you guys are moving more. So clearly, Seth, you made it. Like you didn't get kicked out. You made it through. And now you're on the other side of it. And you've all started moving into your professional lives. What does that look like?
I'm starting with me. I mean, so Dr. Prince, I mean, he took his first job in Northern California, and somehow, rather coincidentally, my first job ended up in a very similar location. So we were close to Sacramento, and he went into private practice and general practice, and I started working as a surgeon, attending surgeon at a large specialty hospital, and we still kept hanging out. And so I suppose, as far as our first trial, the academic and becoming a clinician trial was over, but the next trial was learning what I'd say one of the main industries and one of the main problems of the veterinary industry is what we observed in practice there. So what kind of led us to form our business model and our business plan now were the issues that we started seeing. Issues where staff were undervalued or understaffed and overworked and unable to self-actualize and unable to be an environment where, the team can grow together towards common goals, towards common values, and be intellectually honest with each other. And so I think I'll probably let Dr. Prince take over from here, because he was the one that jumped ship from working for someone else and tried to create something different first. And then I joined him later. So I'm going to let him take over.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
You highlight too, Dr. Prince. I really want to know what you all are feeling, like what that visceral experience is like. Because I meet so many practitioners who really are in that spot right now. And I think it's hard to conceptualize there might be something different. So I think relating to what those stressors were, Dr. Seth, you just pointed to some of them, like this understaffing, kind of inhumane treatment of humans, lack of self-actualization, no path really forward. I'd love to hear more of that from you too, Fran. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I benefit from the experience. Like you said, I'm third generation. I benefited from a lot of experience operationally and just seeing what the veterinary profession offered with both my grandpa and my dad. And my grandpa was a very your friendly country vet, the house calls all day and farm calls all night and all that kind of stuff. And my dad came into practice and focused more on the business side, was a very successful small animal practitioner. And he just kind of let me, flounder on my own, I guess you could say, out of vet school, rather than handing me the keys to the family practice when I graduated. So I took a job with that kind of mindset, kind of knowing what a veterinarian is worth, knowing how we should be treated, and knowing how a functional clinic and staff and all that kind of work. And what I found in practice when I came out was that's the exception, not the rule. And growing up, that was my only experience in the veterinary industry. And so I very quickly became frustrated with not only my earning potential, but also my ability to practice the medicine that I wanted to do, the equipment that I could use, the how I could train my staff, and even how I could communicate with clients. I found that, as a medical practitioner, I was asked to essentially generate revenue for a business, but I wasn't given the tools to self-actualize as as a veterinarian. Because if I wanted to make a lot of money and be famous, you could be a dentist or something like that, right? Like, you don't become a vet to do other stuff. The reason we get up in the morning is because we really like working with our patients. We really like working with the people in our clinics, and we really like working with our clients. I'll say that with tongue in cheek a little bit. But at the end of the day, I couldn't be who I wanted to be as a veterinary practitioner, and I could practice how I wanted to practice, working for somebody else. And I was working for a private practice. I wasn't working for corporate at the time. I had corporate offers. I had other jobs that I could explore, but they had the similar issues that I saw as preventing me from achieving what I wanted to achieve. And so at that point, I just said, well, I've been out of school 3 years, and I said, well, I've kind of learned what I can learn from somebody else, and I was ready to kind of take the plunge in ownership. I convinced my dad to come out of retirement to come support what I was doing, and we bought a practice in Arizona together, and we took a 2-doctor practice in 2017, and I think it was 11 doctors and close to 100 staff by the time I was kind of ready for the next challenge in 2020. So we saw a lot of really good growth and increase in caseload, increase in revenue, increase in the people that we could hire and work with once we could practice how we were taught and how we wanted to practice for our patients. And we really got to design a really nice lifestyle and a really nice facility. And a couple of years into that, that's when I started knocking on Seth's door again, saying, don't you want to, self-actualize with me? Don't you want to come along for the ride, and we can do something together? Seth was on board from day one, but it took about 1.5 years to convince his wife to jump into, I think. But that was where I transitioned from, kind of being a passenger to more just kind of piloting my own ship and going that way.
I love this story. So now here we are, fast forward, and Dr. Brandon's come to you, Dr. Seth, and said, hey, let's do this. I'd love to hear a little more about what it took being a family man to really make that change and have the family, ready for that too. Because it can be quite scary to leave something that's very familiar and kind of a proven path forward, even though, we always say with humans, we tend to be more comfortable choosing the familiarity of pain than risking taking that step that could be better, but we just don't know if it's really going to be better. It's very risky. So how did that play out for you all? How did you finally make the transition?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that your human nature is the default to what's comfortable. And I think that's what a lot of corporate practices try and do. They want to make you comfortable or make it seem like it would be too uncomfortable and too risky to go out and do anything different. And without really making you understand what it involves. So I think a lot of people in my generation, our generation, I should say, are afraid and don't know how to go out on their own. And I wouldn't have known myself. I mean, we go to vet school, and if it's more than a decade of training, but know nothing about HR, know nothing about accounting, know nothing about inventory, and all. I think the older generation of vets come out thinking they can John Wayne it and learn anything, and I can wear all the hats and manage my own practice. Whereas I came out thinking I don't know how to do any of that, and that's where partnering with the princes came in and made it possible for me to do that. Because I came out learning how to do surgery, and I have a sales background, so with a certain amount of marketing, I sold during my summers of vet school, and that helped. But I didn't know the first thing about management, practice ownership, and everything else. So that's where our partnership became synergistic. As far as persuading my family, I mean, we felt good about the move. We really liked where we lived in Northern California. I mean, it's a beautiful area, and jumping to the desert was probably what made my wife hesitate at first.
Totally get it, by the way.
Yeah, but we felt good about the business opportunity, and we felt good about the area. And we're in the greater Phoenix area now, and I love it. I mean, it's my kids got used to it very quickly. They love the sunshine and everything you can do outdoors here, and
yes. Seth used the term a lot when we talk about kind of the past. He was wearing the golden handcuffs, and he was making a ton of money. He was a really productive surgeon, and he had everything you're supposed to want. You had specialists that worked alongside you. You had equipment, right, Seth, and all that stuff. But he wasn't seeing his family. He was 6 days a week plus in clinic, and he was one of the most productive doctors in the entire company of the corporate group he was working with. And it's kind of funny, at the time, my dad was actually a regional operator for that company. So I knew a lot about, Seth's situation and all that kind of stuff on the back end. It was crazy. They wouldn't give him another tech. They wouldn't give him the opportunity to be more efficient with his skill. When he wanted to, buy a fancy piece of equipment, he had to submit, all these requests and all that stuff, instead of saying, "Hey, I just need this to better the care of my patients." And so, despite all the, quote, perks that he was experiencing working for a corporate group, what he felt, and it was similar to what I felt, and don't let me put words in your mouth, Seth, but it was a case of they weren't supporting you being a doctor. And I think that was the main catalyst for me starting on my own, and also for, Seth to make the jump too. He wanted his cake and eat it too, and corporate was making him choose.
Yeah, not to badmouth anybody there, because I mean, I still love the people at my old practice where I used to work, and loved working with everyone there. But I think what Brandon's alluding to is the issue with the greater system that we see, that when we talk to them about, staffing, if I had another staff member, I could do another surgery a day, they respond with the problems that are inherent with the system, where they say, well, we're only allowed to use 17% of hospital revenue for staffing, so you need to produce more, and then you can maybe get another tech, which is backwards, because you get another tech and you do another surgery a day, and you just increased your productivity by, maybe 20%. So that was one of the issues that made me look elsewhere. But everything has evolved. I left, as Dr. Prince said, because I was working a lot and looking to have more time with family, and also excited for the opportunity to see what we could do in business together. And what that's evolved into over the last 3 years, because we started this practice 3 years ago, is realizing what we can do to help our staff. And what's been especially rewarding to us is the feeling that we take people that are burned out in the industry and feel like I can't stay here. I'm going to jump ship and move to the human field. Or I had one tech leave and join the sheriff's office, and just underappreciated and burned out, to feel like they can get more qualifications, increase their pay scale, and do the career that they love, and have a living wage. So that's what's really been surprising to me in this whole business venture, is how much we feel we've been able to help our staff, which is not what I expected. Most people, they become a business owner, they think, I'm going to have more time and more money. But what I didn't realize is that that's no longer the motivation anymore. Motivation is, okay, we can better help our patients, and we can better help our clients, and we can better help our team, which is essentially what became our mission statement. We care for the patient, we care for our clients, and we care for our team. And they're all linked. When we take good care of our team, then they take better care of the patients and the clients. And when they feel happier in their job, and they feel supported, and they feel adequate training, and they feel adequate pay, they come to work and do a better job. So that's kind of what it's evolved in. I'm not sure if this is all flowing the direction you were pointing at, Crystal, or if we're skipping ahead in terms of questions, but that's what we've been feeling as we've been on this journey.
What I really appreciate how synergistic it all ended up being. And, your story, I think, can be a common story for many people if they're willing to keep moving forward, which is the golden handcuffs are real. We need to be able to identify that and name it. But just having the perks of like a large paycheck may not be enough. That we also want quality of life, and we want to feel like what we do matters. And by you all taking that leap to start this business, first you had to essentially satisfy your needs by filling your cup. Like we say this as therapists all the time. If you're going to serve others, you have to pour from a cup that's already full, right? So if you fill your cup and say, we're meeting our basic needs, we have quality of life, we have income coming in, now we have extra, and we want to distribute that. We want to take care of our people. We want to make sure that they have good quality of life, that they have, a way to advance. And it really becomes this beautiful like circle that just keeps flowing. So let's keep going, right? I think we're perfectly on the right trajectory of, we got to the part of how this idea came about, the pain points that motivated it. Now you all have traction. You've actually taken the leap. You've gotten the buy-in from the family. You made the transition, and you get this business going. So just paint the picture for us. Tell us about this organization. What is it all about? What does a typical day look like at the life of the Surgery Care Center?
Well, I'll tell you, we started just kind of building around Seth's skill set. Was our goal. I found as a emergency practitioner, essentially, just a general practitioner, but I was seeing a lot of emergency cases. I was having a really hard time referring patients to specialists at the level of care that I was looking for. And, in my practice, we had minimally invasive equipment, we had CT, we had all the, toys and the bells and whistles, and we could do a lot in-house, but my skill set was not good enough to, intervene the way that somebody like Seth or another board certified specialist could. And so it was born out of that kind of frustration of, well, there's a real need, and our clients have a real desire to do better for their pets, and to, hey, if I can go get a lap-assisted cholecystectomy at a human hospital, why can't my veterinarian do that for my dog? Right. And Seth had really carved out a nice niche for himself in Northern California, just given his mentors at Colorado State and all the stuff that led him to his skill set in minimally invasive. And so it really started out of like, well, wouldn't it be fun to focus on the really cool stuff, the stuff that gets people excited. And as a general practitioner, I can say, wow, like I can really impress my clients and give them the opportunity to do better for their pets. And it came from a very, kind of desire to do better for our patients place. And so we had both. I'd never practiced in Phoenix before. Seth had never been to Phoenix before. And we just, started, we took over a turnkey building, had some ORs ready to go. And we just said, hey, we're going to start offering this service. And it blew our minds how fast it took off, and how quickly the veterinary referring community in Phoenix just latched onto the idea and said, our clients really want this. They have these surgeries in the human hospitals. We're so happy we can send that to you guys. And then on the operation side, selfishly, we wanted to set it up so that Seth could be home for his kids, and he could attend his kids' activities. I remember one of his sons drew a picture one time of his family at his house, and his dad wasn't in the picture that he drew, and he's like, "Oh, maybe Dad will sleep at our house tonight, but I don't know if we'll see him." And that was back when he was at his other job, because he was on call all the time, and every Saturday he was in doing bandage changes and all that kind of stuff. So we said, I have some human surgery friends, and I'm really jealous of their lifestyle. They show up, they cut, and they go home, and they work 3 to 4 days a week and go on Disney cruises on the weekend, and live great family lifestyles. And we said, why don't we design that out of this practice? Because we probably deserve that too, right? So we said, we're going to be Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We're not going to keep our patients after hours. We're going to partner with local ERs, and they're going to do what they do best, which is monitor, provide needed critical intervention and all that kind of stuff. And we are going to be their surgery outpatient center. And we will do that job very well. And then we will, take care of the transport of the patients. We'll have really good customer service. And we are going to do surgery, and we're going to do it so well that we are going to be the, referral surgery office of choice. And so that's what we designed. Like, selfishly, it was a lifestyle choice, but it also was something that Seth devoted and still devotes a ton of time and energy to perfecting a skill set that has a huge demand in the veterinary community that really isn't being met. Across the nation, it's just not being met in most places. So a day in the life is I'll let Seth take it over because he lives it every day. I just kind of put out fires, but he's the one that's living in it.
No, you bring up good points. I mean, it started out somewhat selfish, and what I learned was that it is better patient care as well. That the model was better for the patient, because it's not fair on a patient, me coming in and trying to do an elective procedure when I spent the night doing MRIs and spinal surgeries on an emergency basis. So your patient care drops without sleep for you and your team. And it's also not fair expecting our team to perform to the highest level if their schedule's unpredictable. If they're like, oh, I'm working days, but tonight I've got to stay up with these patients because they're staying overnight. Whereas you give them a regular schedule, and from a health and sleep standpoint, they're going to be, it's better for them, and it's better patient care too. Whereas, if there are emergency facilities that have people that work shifts, or their sleep schedules more aligned with that, they're going to do a better job taking care of the patient in the middle of the night. And it means we don't have to try and be everything to everybody. As Brandon said, if we try and stick with what we're good at, which is the surgery and the customer service, and then we'll leave it up to the experts. If our dog needs a blood transfusion in the middle of the night or needs ventilator support, the critical care team, that's what they do every day. So starting out selfish, it seemed I wasn't sure about the patient care, and then it's evolved into me realizing that we're taking better care of the patient. Because our team's better and their team is more equipped to do what they're good at.
Now, this brings me to another part of your story that I remember really landed for me, is how you take care of your team and how you have a different model than traditional practices with like your tech ratio to doctor ratio, and the number of meetings you have in a given month, and how important those are, and just your whole mindset around how you take care of your staff. I'd love if you would speak more to that.
Yeah. Do you want to start, Brandon, or do you want me to start? Sure. Yeah. Well, this is my selfish part of the story, because I, just selfishly, I wanted more help. And my first job was in a hospital that I think a lot of veterinarians could probably relate to, where you get assigned one tech, and that's your buddy for the day, and you go and see your patients and everything. But I found I was doing everything, I was doing things that, legally I probably didn't need to do. And a skilled nurse or skilled technician could probably do something better than me, like placing a catheter, drawing blood, things like that. And so selfishly, I, said, well, I'm going to try and support, what the doctors do a little bit better and make that a focus of the practice. And it has the added benefit of, the staff, our nurses, our skilled technicians, and even our, less skilled individuals like our kennel technicians and people, receptionists, our client care team. They all like the challenge of being asked to do more. And so it became this, well, I need help. And I found a lot of willing hands to say, we want to help you. And so then it created this new problem for us of, well, how do we empower our staff to help us to the maximum of their ability, but do it in a safe way that doesn't impact our patient care and helps achieve what we want to do as a healthcare team. And so it started with, okay, let's, instead of 1 to 2 techs per doctor, let's get up to 8 to 12 technicians per doctor. And some days with Seth, you'll see 15 technicians working with him. And we do that with our technicians, where to put them in a position to do pretty much anything that a doctor is not legally required to do. We can train a nurse or hire somebody with that training to help assist us in doing. That requires us to spend a lot of time. If we're going to trust people to do that, it requires us to spend a lot of time training them and teaching them the why behind what we do and how we do things and why that's important. So we just started, shutting down our hospital for 2 to 3 hours a week and making sure that they were on the same page as the doctors. They knew why things were happen the way they did, and they knew how to solve problems. And they knew how to support the doctor in all those functions that a doctor didn't need to do. And it actually is very freeing as a medical practitioner. And I'm sure Seth will kind of speak to this going from one situation to another. Is it allows him and his skill set to impact more patients during the day, and do so without compromising medical quality or care. So we just really said, we're going to invest in our people. Turns out they love it. Speaking of your virtuous cycle that you talked about before, Crystal, is they feel more important, and the other part of that we don't like to talk about in veterinary medicine is money. We can pay our technicians so much more because they are more productive and they make more money for the hospital. And so we are not limited by pay scales. We're not limited. We literally tell our technicians and our client service staff and our managers, you write your own paycheck and the sky's the limit. And we don't put a cap on things. And the more that they want to do and the more they want to learn and the more they want to support what a doctor does, we can reward them with benefits and money and wage increases and all that kind of stuff. So it is very self-sustaining. It's very virtuous in how one idea supports another. And it really, that tide raises all the boats, which is nice.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, Seth, I'd love to hear your point of view in the hospital each day.
Well, I've been there. I mean, as a surgery resident, we had 1 tech between 4 residents and faculty, and then maybe like 6 students. And you do all your own bandage changes and do all your own discharges. I could be in surgery and as a resident, and then have a page saying this owner is here to pick up, and I'd have to leave surgery because the resident was supposed to do the discharge because if students didn't do those discharges and the tech's too busy. And then moving on from there, it got better in corporate where we had some skilled staff, but just not enough of them, right? 1 or 2 techs per doctor, depending on the day. And if you only have that, then one person's holding and one person's bandaging or taking an x-ray, and it's just inefficient. And then, medical records go by the wayside and you end up spending all your family time typing and catching up. Well, I mean, the model that the princes bring in is really the dentist model. And we've all been to the dentist, and, depending on the practice, you walk in and you'll usually walk past maybe, five or six chairs, and there'll be a person in each of those chairs, and the dentist will be attending to one of them, and other staff members and hygienists and, someone taking a CT, and everybody's taken care of. But you'll have one dentist bouncing between multiple chairs, doing the part that he needs to do. He needs to do his exam, and he may need to do some more advanced work. But your average dentist visit, you only meet with the dentist for 5 minutes. But you don't complain and say, oh, I had an hour-long appointment at the dentist and the dentist only saw me for 5 minutes, because the rest of the staff have cared for you. And that's what we've aimed to achieve. So in terms of seeing appointments, I mean, I know many colleagues who will see, an appointment every hour, and there's 8 hours in a day plus lunch, minus lunch. So they maybe see like 6-7 appointments in a day.
We don't have lunch in this industry, Seth. That's a policy.
Whereas when I started, I mean, here we could see 10, 15 appointments before 10 o'clock if we run it like a dentist. So we have, 7 exam rooms running, technician assigned to every person, and then me going between rooms. And as long as we're efficient, and as long as we give each client the time they need, because some of them do need to have more explained to them or have more questions, there's no loss in customer service there.
Yeah, and a lot of our technicians, they can support Seth in that model because they know the surgeries. They may not have experience doing the surgeries, but they know the surgeries that Seth is introducing to his clients, as well as he would explain them. And so Dr. Bleakley is able to kind of expand his reach and without, again, compromising the care and time and attention that he's given to each of his clients, because our staff, they have spent the time studying, learning, watching, observing, and being taught why and how Seth operates. And not to interrupt Seth, but that's the crux of it is he finally, with what we do, he finally has the ability to have other people support him, even though he is the medical authority in the room. He allows other people to step in and help his patients with him. And so it becomes a very team-based approach, which is nice.
Yeah, there was a lot of growing pains. I mean, many vets have a harder time letting go. They're like, well, the technician couldn't explain this as well as me, or a technician couldn't do the bandage change as well as me. And that takes a lot of adjustment. But if we give them a chance, they could, with some practice and some training. And it takes a lot of investment on our part to teach them and help them to learn how to communicate and to help them to practice their practical skills. But the rewards are there for everybody. The rewards being that we become more productive. The schedule is less dependent on me because more, everybody's pitching in, could do more. And clients are happy, and we can help more patients and we can help more clients. And that translates into the operating room as well. I mean, we don't have the equivalent of 8 dentist chairs, but we have 2 operating rooms. And I've been in practices of the past where you'd have 1, maybe 2 techs per operating room. And that's, not just suboptimal patient care. It's dangerous. If you've got an anesthesia technician who needs to go looking for an instrument in a drawer, there's split attention there. So we make sure every patient has adequate number of team members, somebody dedicated to anesthesia, somebody dedicated is scrubbed in to help assist the surgeon, somebody dedicated to instrumentation, and enough staff so that we can, if every patient can be well cared for. And that with 2 operating rooms, multiple teams, the surgeon can walk between one operating room to the next and rotate through cases like a dentist would. So we can help more patients that way. the result has been, an increase in efficiency that's increased our caseload. One of the issues we find in this area has been wait times. We very, very frequently get a call. Oh, we called multiple other surgical practices and they won't be able to see us for 6 weeks, which
for a broken leg or something, right?
Which we find hard to swallow. With our model, it's like, well, yeah, our appointments are booked out too. We have enough staff that if they come here this morning, we'll fit them in, and we'll be able to see them and take care of them and fix the broken leg within a day.
And everybody will still leave on time. Like where our staff aren't staying late into the night, and our doctors still have good quality of life with their families, which is great. So
from that standpoint, we're able to help more pets that other people maybe couldn't help, and absorb that into the team without affecting everyone's quality of life. So yeah, it sounds kind of like a no-brainer, but having seen it not be that way in so many places, it seems to be an inherent issue with the industry and with systems, whereby people are not taking care of their staff or staffing efficiently to take care of more patients and clients.
Yeah, we actually have the opposite problem that Seth brought up there at the beginning, where he said, well, a lot of doctors have trouble letting go. And I think, again, that's industry wide, because we don't have, like dentists, we don't have standardized training or enough of it where, somebody can graduate a CBT or an RBT program and come into your clinic and know what's going on. In the dental world, they do. And so, as we let go and as we train our staff, that's actually our biggest source of turnover, is our technicians keep going to veterinary school. We have 5 former technicians that are now in veterinary school. And it is so great to see them, but it creates that problem where we need to keep hiring to replace and keep training. So it becomes a little bit of a too virtuous on that front, but hopefully they'll go and, do their residency and come back to us as surgeons, and then we can start the process over again.
I gotta say, I appreciate this too. With this being a wellness-based podcast, that evidence points to one of the factors that contributes to burnout is that feeling of not being able to grow and not being fully utilized, being throttled down, feel like your head's hitting the ceiling of what you're able to do within an organization. And so by having these pathways forward for your technical staff to say, the sky's the limit. Like, you can be as involved as you want. You can learn as much as you want, is really, really helpful for burnout prevention. And of course, not to mention all the other aspects of what you built into your model, which is, having those boundaries around hours, and that you actually start on time and end on time, and that you have quality of life. I think these opportunities are really, really important for ensuring the health of an organization. And with the health of the organization, you can take care of clients and patients, which you're doing. So again, we keep going back to that cycle that really works well. And I think just to speak to that, the model that we are struggling with right now in veterinary medicine, as well as in other professions, it's so familiar. It's what everybody's doing. It's really hard to break away from something where there's so much like momentum moving in that direction. This is how we've always done it. Why would we do it any different? And it takes people being a little bit of a renegade to go out on their own and say, we're going to try something different. And that's why I really was excited to have you on today. Because if we can envision it, if we have role models that are doing it, it gives us that permission to say, maybe we could step outside of that familiar or comfort zone and try something new too. Maybe we need to find our counterpart. We're not supposed to be jacks of all trades. We're not supposed to do it all. We need to know our lane and stay in it, and find people who can take care of the other lanes. So I think your story, going back to the beginning of how going through these difficult times, looking at the way you were living your life and your values and saying, this is working for me. I don't know if I want to continue this. I'd like to spend more time with my family. We'd like to do things differently. We'd like to provide better patient care. We'd like to take care of our staff. And as slowly, by degrees, you started changing the way you went about things. And now here you are with this surgical center that is probably delivering more than you ever thought that it could. Like, I'd love to ask, going back in time, if you could talk to your younger self, right? and you're still in those painful positions, working in the old model, what advice would you give to yourself?
Well, I want to back up just a second. Sorry, Crystal, to what you were saying about the self-actualization. Like, I've always known that of being in the hierarchy of needs, but didn't really understand it till we had a business and we had staff, that how important it is to someone feeling like they're progressing. Because, I mean, Brandon and I are both in very, very progressive careers. You know, you do your undergraduate degree, and then you move from that, you try and get into vet school, and from that you try and get into an internship and a residency, or do a business degree afterwards, an MBA, like Brandon. And that is very different from our technical staff. So our technical staff have the option of getting their CVT or their RVT or their LVT, so equivalent of an RN. And they have the option of a few specializations, which they can do within that. But none of them are really incentivized to, and none of them really understand or know the opportunities. And use an example, my previous practice, I had a technician who was hired as an assistant because he was still working for his RVT, his license. He was still working and trying to pass exams, and he's putting himself through it, hoping there'd be some reward in the end, paying for it himself. And then he passed his exam, and the corporate practice manager he went and told the corporate practice manager, expecting a pat on the back. And the response was, "Oh, well, we hired you as an assistant, and we're not sure if we have a position as an RVT." So they almost told him that we don't have your job anymore because you went and got more qualified. And that's a problem. If that exists anywhere, that barrier to self-actualization, it's like, what's the point? Why should I work harder or do anything? And why would I even stay in this industry? Realizing now, you know, we flip that around with our staff and say, anybody who, you know, as Brandon said, you write your own paycheck. Anyone who wants to progress and get more qualifications, we'll reimburse it, we'll pay for it, and you'll have wages reflecting your qualifications, and the light that we see on their faces when they get there is the reward, and is the reason why I think people, it's the reason why people are satisfied in their job. If people don't feel like they're progressing, they don't feel like they're moving on to something better or becoming something more, both in terms of their own skills and their own knowledge, and quite frankly their own pay scale, then the stagnation just it's not a happy place to be. Dead end, you've all heard dead end job. People call things dead end job because they're not progressing, and if they can't progress any further up, then it's like, okay, we need to look elsewhere.
And absolutely right. The technician jobs are commonly viewed as a dead end job. That there's a cap on the ceiling of what they're going to be able to make, and it's either you just stay there forever or you're going to move on to a different industry. And that's why people are switching, like you said, to human medicine, which is really, really disappointing. And to say it doesn't have to be that way, I think it's so important. I would say something similar there to people in specialty, like veterinarians in specialty, like surgery or oncology. I think that many people feel trapped that their only option is to work in corporate, because corporate is bought up. You know, if you're looking at specialty, it's corporate owned. So you guys are like a unicorn out there to say, maybe it doesn't have to be that way. You know, I really appreciate your all's inventiveness and willingness to say, what is ethical? How should we be treating people? And let's do that here in our business. We can change the model. We don't have to subscribe to that any longer.
And to speak to your question about like, what would we tell our younger selves? I don't know about Seth, but I was very proud of myself when I graduated vet school, and I'm a doctor, and I'm going to prove to the world how much I know and how smart I am, and all that kind of stuff. And you don't realize how important the relationships that you have in the clinic and outside the clinic, how they have an impact on your happiness, but also they have such an impact on what you can achieve. And so and to frame that, in a environment where you're restricted on what you can do and the doctor has to do everything and the doctor's the be all say all, and it's not a team, in Seth's previous practice, compared to now, he's more than 3 times as productive with the team that he's got now, working less hours. Right. So monetarily, it becomes a place where, we can do anything we want. We have the funding to buy any equipment that we want, to give people raises, to do all that kind of stuff, because we trust other people and we help, we care what happens to those around us, and we care what happens to our team. And we care that they like their job. And if I could tell my younger self anything, it would be, lift everybody else up around you first. And, selfishly, it'll come back and make everything about your life better. And that's something that I think took me a few years to figure out. And, we're not perfect, and we're still working on that. And we're still trying to, be the best version of Care Surgery Center that we can be. But it is something that, at least when I started graduating, I thought, well, you're right. The doctor has to do it all. Because not only, is that kind of that stigma goes with that doctor title, but that's kind of what you're taught from academia. And I know Seth was kind of taught that in his residency, and he was, the specialty community is kind of taught, well, you're the specialist, so you're the big shot. Everybody's got to come to you, and you're the authority. And luckily, Seth's a humble guy, and so it didn't take him long. He was a lot faster adopting this system than I was. I got to be honest on that, but it is something that before me personally, we were doing that. I was really hampering what I could achieve, and I was really hampering my satisfaction with my job and my career.
It reminds me of that expression: if you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I mean, I'd agree with Brandon, and thank you. I suppose, what would I tell my younger self if you go back in time? I mean, aside from all the practical things and everything to do with like taxes and success. I mean, I think it's the main thing I said earlier. What's surprising to me is how rewarding it is to feel like you're helping people. I mean, we go into this job thinking, I'm going to help puppies and I'm going to do cool surgeries. And what I didn't realize until I became a business owner is that we're actually making a difference in people's lives as well. And, that's clients, but also our staff. And that making the jump to ownership is helping people and providing them with a livelihood, and providing them with quality of life, and providing them with their needs. And I think I would tell my younger self that is going to be a major part of ownership. That is going to be unexpected, but probably one of the most rewarding. I mean, we have our whole careers. We help dogs and cats and their owners, but you don't really get to make a difference in the lives of your staff until you really have control over their livelihoods and their training and their future.
Yeah, we take that pretty seriously at Care.
Yeah.
I think back to the days I was a technician when I was in undergrad, and I would have died at the opportunity to work for a company like this. I think the people that go into medicine are often really driven. They love to learn, like lifelong learners, and to have those opportunities of advancement. And we've thrown out the term several times, of self-actualization. And anybody listening today that says, what the heck does that mean? And you Google it to read about it, because it's very interesting with Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how you can look at this. As a human, we have these like a pyramid of needs, and you need to meet the base of the pyramid, then the middle of the pyramid, and eventually get to the top. And what we're talking about today is really the top of the pyramid, like this ultimate formation of why we're here on this planet. These things that deeply touch us, we can often feel them, but it's hard to talk about them. But I think we've done a really great job of speaking about them today. As we bring this to a close, I'd like to ask if there's anything else about Care Surgery Center that we've not touched on that you'd want to highlight. And I'd also be curious about your hopes for the future with your company.
Well, I don't know if you want me to go first, but yeah, as far as hopes for the future, one thing we've realized is, well, first of all, when we create something like this, we have people that want to come work somewhere like this. So it has been growing as we've seen. As we've seen staff from other clinics have come and bring their friends here, and it's grown. But I also have friends and colleagues and met other surgeons who want what we have too, who are, maybe they're in a practice that got bought out by corporate and they were hoping to become a partner, but then they missed the boat because of just that chain of events, which is becoming pretty common in the industry. And then everything has changed and they're not happy where they are anymore, and they want to start what we have, but they don't know how. So in terms of our future and the direction of this, we see it, well, if we have a model that can help the industry, it's really only limited by the number of surgeons that are willing to partner with us. In that, if we have other people that they want this, I don't want to work in this environment anymore, and I want staff that I can help, and I want a model that's going to be better for me, my staff, my patients, then the future we see is providing that and helping other people do what we've done here, anywhere. So it's essentially, as I said, only limited by surgeons. And if we meet other surgeons that want to start their own practices, we'd be willing to help them do what we've done, whether or not they're affiliated with us or not. I met a friend, I was talking to a friend last night on the phone, and he's starting his own practice in a different city. And he's already got a partner and he's doing his own thing, but he's going to fly out here and see what we're doing, and to learn and see if he can replicate it, because the benefits of this model will speak for themselves for anybody who's been on the other side of the trenches and has seen what it's like being, just struggling with staff that are struggling. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the future that I would see, in that if this can help the industry, it can help patients, it can help other surgeons too. And it's something that's very repeatable. And a lot of the work we've been doing this year is creating the system to make it repeatable through the training manuals and the software and everything else that makes this model possible anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty lucky, but we don't consider this necessarily rocket science. So, there's nothing particularly proprietary about what we do. There's no, I don't know about secret sauce or anything like that. It's just, at the end of the day, we try and treat ourselves, we treat others, we treat our clients, we treat our patients the way we would want to be treated. We try and foster an environment of intellectual honesty, of communication, and really build our hospital around caring for our team, caring for our patients, and making sure that we give everyone the best care that we can, which is where the name came from, right? And I think at the end of the day, what is good for our hospital is good for the veterinary industry, and so we're happy to preach the good word all day long on this kind of subject. And yeah, when we go to conferences now, 2 years ago, Seth was working here, 3 days a week, Seth? And, he would see maybe 1 or 2 surgeries a day when we first started. And then he would go and drive around to all the clinics in Phoenix. I think he's been to all 158 of them, and made sure to introduce himself personally to every vet in town and let them know, like, hey, we want to help your patients. We want to help what you do. We want to support what you do. And I think at the end of the day, we've got enough here to keep us busy. But when we go to our conferences and we went to ACPS in October, Dr. Bleakley is a real popular guy with his colleagues because they all said, well, how did you take the leap? How do we do this? And that's, we see on the specialty side, let alone, I think you've had some really good guests on your podcast and on the GP side. I think there's a lot of good companies, well-intentioned individuals, and people really trying to address this issue in the veterinary industry, which is great. And the more individuals we have doing that, the better. But on the specialty side, I don't see it. And I've yet to really see, outside of a few examples of people really kind of deciding we're going to be deliberate about making our industry a better place. And so we would love to just, keep spreading that around, and whether that's working with individuals or not, our goal is to make life better for ourselves and our teams and our patients. And if we can do that at the end of the day, we've succeeded.
Wonderful. For those listening today that may want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to look you up, find you? And I can link all this in the show notes.
Yeah. So our website is, it's a mouthful, but it's caresurgerycenter.com. We are in Glendale, Arizona, the greater Phoenix area. Both Seth and myself were on LinkedIn, so you can find us there. At our facility, we're happy to answer questions. We love to work with friends.
Okay, I'll put all that in the show notes, and just want to thank you both for being on today, Dr. Seth, Dr. Brandon. It's been a real pleasure, and I wish you all the best for the future. I'm excited to see how things continue to evolve.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you feel stoked after listening to this episode. And as always, I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Is there a topic that you want to know more about? Please let me know. And thank you again for subscribing and sharing your favorite episodes with others. It really means a lot.